Let's freaking go. This right here from Brian Kelly is the single most important update we have gotten all fall.
Tyree is going to be our starting left tackle. I think there's still a battle between Paul and Cohen Eccles, for one of the guard positions. Justin has nailed down one of the guard positions. Braylon has nailed down the center, excuse me, the center position. And I think there's still a battle for that next tackle position, which would be the right tackle. So we moved Karius over there to compete with Weston, to see who's our best. And maybe it's both of them, Matt, more than anything else. We wanted to see that maybe it's a combination or maybe it's one or the other. There wasn't enough competition there. We feel like Ori's coming along, but he wasn't there yet. So we wanted to create a little bit more competition at that right tackle position. Does that make sense?
Real quick, you didn't mention DJ Chester on the offensive line. Is he still in the mix for a
Yes.
job?
In some ways it's a disservice to him because we got him playing center, guard. He's playing a little bit of right tackle. He's competing for a starting position as well. But we can't put them all out there. So somebody's going to have to be in a rotational position, whether it's Paul or Cohen or DJ, Weston or Karius. Those are the guys that are all going to eventually play. I don't think you're just going to see five guys trotting out there every single play. I think you're going to see some other guys definitely getting in the game as well.
Very interesting. Out of everything Brian Kelly said this offseason, including Death Valley Jr., that right there is a specific update of the biggest question mark on this team. Tyree Adams at left tackle, Braylon at center, right guard, Josh Thompson. I think most of us thought this was the direction that LSU would head, but there are a few extra surprises. We're going to talk about all of that and more. Let's go! So what I want you to do is come into the stream with an open mind, because this will not be a criticism of Brian Kelly, but he is doing something I don't think I've ever seen another LSU coach do. And at the same time, I don't think I've ever seen any coach do, right? So you heard the update at the very beginning of the live stream, and we will play it again here in just a moment because it is so important. And there's some other things he mentioned in that press conference, but the biggest question mark was answered. The thing that we are trying to figure out about this team is, what will the offensive line look like in week one? Tyree Adams at left tackle, right guard more than likely would be Josh Thompson. And just a little update on him. I do feel his practices have gotten better. And then at center, you have Braylon Moore. So, look, I am of the belief that you should play the best players at all times. But we did see something that was interesting. Carius Kern at right tackle running with the ones during the media portion of practice. Something else about Brian Kelly is that he did say he is going to heavily consider rotating guys in and out throughout the game. Now, that's not totally unprecedented. LSU just did not do that last year outside of the bowl game versus Baylor. But for the most part, Brian Kelly has had his offensive lines remain the same. But if you go back to the actual Baylor bowl game, this is actually an offensive line change. So if you're listening via podcast, no worries. We'll tell you what happens. Tyree Adams is at left tackle. Paul Mabenga is at left guard. DJ Chester is at center. Then at right guard, it's Cohen Eccles. And then at right tackle, it's Miles Frazier. So you'll see right here that at this juncture, there is growing belief that neither DJ Chester or Paul Mabenga will start versus Clemson. All right. So you look potentially at an offensive line that has multiple first-year starters already, along with Cohen Eccles, who's never started in a game, and then Carius Kern at right tackle. And then it took Wilson Alexander with the follow-up question to say, what about DJ Chester? Because in the initial question, Brian Kelly did not bring up DJ Chester's name. Okay. Now, there is a lot of other things that we have to discuss. A lot, including more news and notes from the scrimmage this past weekend. Also, a few other things. I want to get into some recruiting stuff, but this is the biggest thing. Nothing comes close to this. Nothing. Michael Van Buren's injury, he's going to be fine. This is it. We already knew that LSU was returning 4 draftees on its offensive line. Okay. And I've gotten a few messages regarding this, and I want to hammer this point home. I do not dislike anybody on the team. When I say that so-and-so should be benched or so-and-so needs to play better or LSU needs to go in a different direction, none of it is personal. But it did become a recurring thing, and I'm going to get to all your comments, but I'm looking at you. It did become a recurring theme in our film studies and in our YouTube streams that I was complaining nonstop about DJ Chester. Nonstop. It was constant. And for LSU to not have a backup center plan or just try someone else at center last year, honestly was just as bad as having the safety play remain the same as it did all last year with Sage Ryan and Major Burns. I was a little bit more sympathetic to DJ Chester's case because he was a first-year starter, and the other two were multiple-year starters. But DJ Chester was the single worst starter in the PFF era for LSU Tigers football over the past decade. So since 2014, PFF has graded not only LSU, but every single college football team with their grading metrics. We can get into a long debate about PFF grading. All right. Sometimes they agree with how I see it. Sometimes they agree with how you see it. Sometimes it's the opposite. But honestly, I was not shocked when I was doing my research for this season that DJ Chester was the lowest graded LSU offensive player to play more than 500 snaps in a single season. And not only did he play 500, he played 920 snaps. 920 snaps. So he was out there every single play struggling. All right. And to me, offensive line has always been a weak link position. Okay. Where you're only as good as your weakest link. And I don't fully agree with that, but if your weakest link is the one that is struggling the most, you need to make adjustments. And I still to this day don't understand why LSU did not try to do it because it was costing them quite a bit later in the year, right? But it wasn't just that. Obviously, the defense had its issues and so on and so on. So here's the problem with that, is that I said DJ Chester was the lowest graded starter ever in the PFF era for LSU at center, which is why they had to go out there and go get Braylon Moore. But LSU strategically, despite more than likely knowing that Braylon Moore was going to be the starter at center, they basically had DJ Chester be the center for the entirety of spring. Now, Braylon Moore worked with the twos at center, and he also worked some with the ones, but DJ Chester started the spring as the center, and now Braylon Moore is the center. So some of it was portal gymnastics. We can get into all of that, but it's whatever. But here's the interesting thing, is that they were trying DJ Chester at left guard, and he still could start at left guard. Brian Kelly even mentioned that. But when Brian Kelly is talking about left guard, he mentioned two names, right? Many of us thought that DJ Chester was for sure going to be the left guard, all right? He didn't work out at center, but we do like those 920 snaps. You try him at left guard, and it's honestly been tough. It's been tough, okay? So you also had Paul Mabenga, who had 400-plus starts or snaps at left guard last year. 400-plus. So many of you know Garrett Dellinger goes down with an injury. So Paul Mabenga steps in at left guard. Tough spot. Well, what happens? Remember I said a minute ago that DJ Chester was the lowest graded LSU player who has ever played 500-plus snaps in a season on offense? Well, if you lower it to 400 snaps, the new lowest graded player over a decade worth of data is now Paul Mabenga. Yes, his grade was lower than that of DJ Chester when he played left guard. So I understand that from the outside looking in, it seems ridiculous that a guy like Cohen Eccles could potentially jump either one of those two to start at left guard. It seems ridiculous. I do not think they will start Cohen Eccles. I do think at this juncture, it more than likely will be Paul Mabenga or DJ Chester. But if they do, it shouldn't shock you. It should not shock you. Now, I've heard all different types of things. I worked the phone lines all day after Brian Kelly said what he said. I am not the most plugged in insider of the world. And I heard different things as far as who everyone thinks. I really do think it's fluid, and I do think LSU is going to rotate at that position, okay? But the truth is, there is a piece of me that wants Cohen Eccles to start because of how poor Chester and Mabenga were last year, okay? Now, in the past, have there been lowly graded offensive linemen take step forwards in the very next year? Yes, there's actually been a few. A good example of that is Austin Deculus. He did not have a well-graded 2018, and then, of course, in 2019, he was fantastic for LSU in an undefeated national championship season. So, yes, you could see a world where Mabenga and Chester become good SEC starters. But I cannot stress enough how not good they were last year. I hate using the word bad, but they were just not good. And it's really hard to magically to go from not good to very, very good, especially if there really wasn't a scheme change. Okay? So it is something, right? It seems wild. It seems absolutely wild, but it is a very real thing. Now we go over to right tackle, which to me is even more fascinating. You have a guy like Weston Davis, and we talked about him last week as a potential starter for this team. And last week, I would have told you, yeah, I feel really, really, really good about Weston Davis at right tackle. Well, made a few extra phone calls, and yeah, there's a reason why Carius Kern is getting some serious looks at right tackle. And basically where we are right now with Carius Kern is that he has the same career path, almost to a T up to this point, as someone like Emory Jones. The only difference is Emory Jones was not an early enrollee, and 57 was. Okay. So Carius Kern, number 57, true freshman out of Arkansas. Let's go, Arkansas. Arkansas players for LSU. The last great one was Brett Helms, also an offensive lineman out of the duck hunting capital of the world, Stuttgart, Arkansas. My patrons know this. A lot of you might know this. I've mentioned this a few times. Carius Kern was my number one player in this class. I really do think he is good. Now, there have been some false start issues in practice, but that's going to happen if you're a true freshman, especially if they're toggling a few different positions here. But I have said plenty of times, he is the most talented offensive lineman on this team right now. Right now. That's how good his high school tape was. That's how athletic this guy is. Okay? You would like Weston Davis to be the starter. You would like to talk yourself into Weston Davis being the starter. Top 100 recruit, a better fit theoretically as a tackle. I think many would feel a guy like Kern is more profiled as an interior offensive lineman. Well, the same thing is true with Emory Jones. Emory Jones, once again, was not a spring enrollee, but when camp started, his true freshman season, he was working at left guard, and then obviously disaster struck, and he needed to be at right tackle, and he was so damn talented, he ended up being a good starting right tackle in the SEC, okay? That is kind of where we are right here with Carius Kern. Do I still think it's going to be Weston Davis? At this point, I don't know. But I've seen a few things. I've heard a few things as far as how Weston is matched up with some of the defensive ends for LSU. Once again, this is a very good defensive end group. You can make a strong case that Clemson's defensive ends are as good, if not better than ours. I think most neutral eyes would say that they are better than ours. That gap might be a little bit closer to the neutral eye or to the biased eye of an LSU fan, but just reality-wise, obviously you guys know how I feel about Jack. You guys know how I feel about Patrick and Relaford. But the truth is LSU might just say, look, a few years ago, at right tackle, we put Cam Wire out there versus Florida State in a season opener, and it cost them. It honestly cost them in many ways. Now, the biggest issue were the snaps with Garrett Dellinger making his first ever start, but Cam Wire was absolutely positively abused in the first game. And that's no disrespect to Cam. Cam was good versus opponents that were not elite, but versus the best of the best, it was tough for him throughout his whole career. So, LSU could look back at that as a learning experience and saying, look, even though Weston Davis is the older player and he is a more experienced player and he's a more seasoned player, why don't we just go down with our best athletes out there at offensive tackle? So to me, I could do a whole hour-long thing on how I would do the LSU offensive line up to this point. Pause. It's such a bad pause. Because it is the biggest story. What I would say, though, I would be where I would be right now, along with Brian Kelly in lockstep, along with Brad Davis. This is still very fluid. I like the way the unit is shaped right now. This is how I would have it, based on what has happened actually at practice. Now, once again, I am not boots on the ground at practice, not for the media viewing or for the actual full practices that are close to the media. So I'm not seeing this with my own eyes, but some of this is just how I watched that unit. The guys that are coming back in their limited sample and in some cases big sample, this is how I would have it. This is how I would have it right now. I think Brian Kelly's got it right. I do. Okay. I'm not saying that this unit is going to be great, but I do think they're in the right spot. Now, we can also talk about the handling of this. So the thing that will be debated, no matter if we have a good offensive line this year or not, is you take a look at how a lot of this was done. So this is a first unit offensive lineman. This is from TigerBait.com. Shout out to Mike Scarborough for joining us last week. Also Preston Guy, friend of the channel. And you'll see that Tyree Adams is at left tackle, but the rest of these players, all right, for the majority of the spring, this is how the offensive line actually did shape out. There was a lot of Bo Bordelon in the spring as well. This is not how the unit's going to look. Really, only the left tackle here is going to be where they are. So in spring, you missed on a lot of practice reps potentially for this unit to gel, maybe for the sake of portal politics, right? And then this is obviously the bowl game once again, and the left guard won't start, left center, or excuse me, the center won't start. The right guard might be starting at left guard. The right tackle no longer with the program, obviously in the NFL. They actually started this game different. Bo Bordelon actually started at right guard. So Cohen Eccles in this game actually didn't even start. So now he jumps the center and the left guard in this picture for the left guard spot, potentially. Okay. So it is so fascinating to me. Now, does any of this matter versus Clemson? It might not, because that defensive line, even if we had a good offensive line, the truth is, as good as our offensive line was at pass blocking last year and as talented as they were last year, this would have been a difficult matchup for them regardless, right? This would have been a difficult matchup for the 2020 Alabama offensive line that everybody considers to be arguably the best in college football history. That's how good this defensive line is for Clemson. But the truth is, you can run on them, and hopefully this unit will be able to run on them. Okay? So there you go. We're going to get to all your comments tonight. With hi to Tyler, Tony, Jalen, Cole. Cheetah says, LSU's playing chess, show media fake plays. They report on it. Clemson watching. Then watch out with those zone runs. Well, it's a lot of chess, right? Because, in the media portions of practice, LSU has shown a lot of counter runs, right? But that might not be what they run. It could be a bunch of show and mirrors, which, I get it, but there's also just a piece of me that says, man, just snap the damn chin straps up and just run through their freaking mouths. I'm just so sick of this. Like, I want an offensive line out there that has the want and desire and the meanness to go out there and just get the mother effing job done. Okay? Just get the mother effing job done. Let's go to Chance. This goes back to our viral Sunday night appearance with Clemson guest Will Vandervoort. Will is an awesome guy. You could tell he was an awesome guy. I clipped an 8-minute portion of our intense back and forth over the ACC strength and the SEC strength. And the truth is, two things can be true at once, okay? Clemson's season last year was so viciously overrated. And the thing that I disagreed most with Will is that this was the single most amazing coaching job of the Dabo Swinney era, or that his coaching job of last year was very underrated, if you will, when that was the worst ACC schedule that Clemson to me has ever played. And that's really saying something. Last year, LSU played 9 teams with winning records at the end of the season, including bowls. Clemson played 6, and they were 2-4 in those games. LSU was 5-4 in those games. Now, the winning record thing could get weird because, of course, we get into the conference game debate and all that stuff. But the truth is, Clemson played a lot of teams last year that were just not good at all. They were bad football teams. And a lot of those games weren't competitive. So you look at their wins, and the game that I watched really closely last night was the SMU game. Jan mostly had been watching the Texas game. One of you asked me to go rewatch the Texas game to give me an updated opinion on Cade Klubnik's game versus Texas. I agreed with most of the national media that Cade's performance versus Texas was honestly really, really, really good. But the truth is, I went back and rewatched the Texas game, and I still believe that Cade was really good in that game. The truth, though, was that SMU game was just weird, right? Clemson caught so many breaks. The only real break that SMU caught is that Cade overthrew Wesco for what could have been a 90-yard touchdown, and Wesco was open, right? But outside of that, the fumble luck went in Clemson's favor. There was also a weird roughing the passer called that would have led to a punt. Instead, it led to a Clemson touchdown, and the drive was extended. You can get into a debate about Clemson's first touchdown in that game with an illegal man downfield penalty on a scramble drill play. Then there was something else that happened in the third quarter. I'd have to let me pull up my notes here from last night. I charted this yesterday. It was in the third quarter. Oh, an offensive pass interference flag was picked up, and could it have gone in either direction, in a touchdown? So there was a flag that was picked up in favor of Clemson, and it was one of those rub kind of situations, and it was 50-50, but it went Clemson's favor, and they ended up scoring a touchdown. So I think last year what they did was a little overvalued and what was a not so great ACC. It really wasn't a great ACC at all. And honestly, the best team in the ACC was Miami. They were the best team. But what happened? Miami's defense was atrocious, and it cost them. Okay. But now there's the other side of the coin that Clemson's team was so damn young, and a lot of those players are back. They lost Beringstall, whatever his name is, his tight end, their tight end who was a good player. They lost Barrett Carter, a good linebacker for them. Phil Maffa was their best running back. That'll probably be their biggest loss with their question mark now at running back. And then they lost R.J. Mickens, their safety. They really don't have a weak position group outside of running back. And based on Clemson reports, they feel good about it. So maybe we are overvaluing them. One thing I will say is it does seem injury luck up to this point, knock on wood, has been in LSU's favor as Clemson has had a few injuries here. But we'll see what happens, okay? We will see what happens. And Alexander says Clemson would have blown that game if they didn't pick up that offensive pass interference. There you go, Alexander. Thanks for your support. Lifting my cross. What's up, Carter? Hope everybody's having a great week. You are too. All right. LSU's front seven and offensive line dominated a very solid Baylor team in the bowl game without all these transfers. Yeah, I would agree that LSU's offensive line overall played well versus Baylor. They really did. Chester had his best game. So it's as much as I've ragged on him, I like DJ Chester a lot as a locker room guy, just as a dude. It's just, I just would not start him. I just would not start him next year. I just wouldn't. Backup, yeah, he's a good. That's a very valuable number 6 backup. They said Brian Kelly confirmed today that they've looked at him at right tackle some. We'll see what happens. But it would be bold yet also understanding if Brian Kelly said, "Hey, we're just rolling with Carius Curran." Okay, now we move on. A few other things as far as the night scrimmage. And also just in general, how I feel about LSU moving forward as a team. So I've been listening to a few other outside opinions, national opinions. I also talk to other people that do SEC content, college football content to give me their outside view. And obviously a lot of these people don't know who a guy like Ori Williams, someone else that Brian Kelly mentioned, they don't know as much about LSU football as you guys do or I do, because they don't cover the team every single day. But I do think most feel that this defense will be a top 10 college football defense going into next year. And it should be. It honestly should be. But the truth is, I want to say this in knowing that Harold Perkins has played unfreaking believably well in spring. Okay. Missed practice for a personal matter. I do think everything will be fine there. But still, I do think we'll see a rejuvenated Perk. This is one message, though, I would send to the LSU analysts, coaching staffs, every single one of them, is that even though this matchup might not be the best for this version of LSU's defense, because I do think LSU's best version of this defense, they feel Harold Perkins playing the star will be the best version. It's tough to have a more linebacker-ish type play the star versus a team that has three really good wide receivers that, with a play caller like Garrett Riley, can spread you out. And the reason why that could be difficult is that it's easy to motion into something offensively to where Harold Perkins has to go out and guard a slot receiver in space. Okay. But even if that is the case, and let's just say Harold Perkins doesn't have the best game versus Clemson, what if that is the case? I think you should stick to the plan, right? I think one thing about the Florida State game, looking back on it, was in 2022 where they ran up and down the field on us. We were in not 2022, 2023. We were in a spot where we were like, okay, we got to try something new with Harold Perkins. My dog going crazy. But I think we need to be in a spot where we need to stick to the plan with Harold Perkins, right? Because I do think he has a real good shot at being very good in the star based on practice reports and so on and so on. But let's just say things are a little rocky. Stick with it. Stick with it, because this Clemson offense is going to be very good. Okay. Hey, I appreciate it, Jamie. It's not so much a report. It's kind of my thoughts. There's more from what Brian Kelly had to say. We'll get to it coming up right after this. Y'all, it is so important that you support our friends at Labor Therapy. And before we get into this Labor Therapy read, I do want to point out that there is a new way that you could support PHL. You can hit the join button down there, and there's a few different join options. You join the PHL online YouTube membership. Guess what? You get a cool little badge next to your name. And when I see your name with that badge, makes me feel special. It'll make me feel warm inside. So check it out. And if you are a member after, I think, 2 months? I'll just put it this way. If you're the first member that signs up at the $9.99 tier, I'm going to send you an autograph card tonight. Let's go. Are you missing that sweet swing? If pain is holding your golf game back, you must check out the full simulator at the Lafayette location of Labor Therapy Center. Yes, Chase and his team built this simulator to go along with a full set of programs catered to your needs. Yes, this entire team at Labor Therapy worked hard to fix that back, your elbow, shoulders, wrists, knees, toes, it doesn't matter. At their Lafayette location, 337-981-4053. Call today. But what if you don't golf? And what if you don't live in Lafayette? No problem. They fix anything therapy related. Book today, labortherapy.com, with locations in Carencro, Youngsville, Morgan City, and Crowley. Labortherapy.com. LABORDE therapy.com. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. I want to play a little bit more from this Brian Kelly press conference. I do think it's important to hear basically everything. I do think this was one of the more important press conferences that BK has done outside of the offensive line thing. So here you Go.
his right hand. He'll be throwing tomorrow. Yeah, we had an X-ray, MRI, no damage. He was just sore, so we've shut him down a little bit, but he'll be back. He did light throwing. He'll do a throwing program in the afternoon today, and then we'll have him back out tomorrow.
And then Witt not practicing yesterday, what's the reason?
Yeah, load management for Witt. Yeah.
Harold too, or what was his situation?
No, he had a personal day. He had some things he had to take care of, but he was back out there today.
Coach, being the starting quarterback at LSU, always a big gig, a lot of responsibility, pressure. What about now with all the social media platforms? And are they more like a pro quarterback now because of the fact they're being compensated? And how does Garrett handle all those things?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jack. I mean, I think, part of my job is to help them manage the distractions that come along with, not only being at a premier program like LSU, but now add the revenue share piece and, hey, you're getting paid and all these things. And really all they can control are the controllables, right? All that other talk that's out there, they can't control any of that. What they can do is really do a great job with their attitude, their work ethic, sticking to a process, and then, handling it as it comes, right? But we have to do a really good job of making sure that our guys don't get distracted by the noise, because it's a lot of noise. And if you're paralyzed by that noise, you won't do it here and you won't do it in the NFL. And we've seen that we've done a pretty good job with the quarterbacks here, that they have transitioned well to the NFL. So we'll continue to, lean on our process that we have that we think prepares our guys to handle those tough situations.
Coach over here, can you talk a little bit about the defense? Brian, everybody's been raving about what they brought, advantages of playing more people. And if you think you've got aggressive playmakers that are going to bring in more TFL sacks and takeaways.
Well, that all sounds good. We haven't played a game yet. We've only gone against each other, but I certainly love the depth, right, that we really haven't had over the first 3 years. We're able to rotate guys in competitive situations, whether it's at the edge, defensive tackle, linebacker, safety, and corner. Those were positions that we were just trying to get 11 out there. And you can't really get a competitive environment when you're so thin there. And, through the roster management and development, both in terms of guys developing in the program and the portal, has put us in a much better position where we can start to see that depth is paying off in practice.
Coach, with Tyree Adams, what made him ready to take this pretty big mantle of, I guess, trying to take Will Campbell's position, and how has he sort of handled that?
Well, we recruited what we thought was a talented player. We recruited somebody that we felt, fit our culture. So, you start with recruiting the right guys, and then they develop naturally within your program. And then when it's time to step in there, they've got to be prepared. So he was a 2-all last year and prepared himself very well. Like, he came to practice, prepared himself, was locked in, and essentially was waiting for his opportunity. And when his opportunity arose, and in particular in the bowl game, he played really well. I think it's everything that I just said. His consistent approach coming to this building every day, focused on the details necessary to be a starting tackle. So I think he had the talent. He had the right traits coming in. He did a really good job of developing and being consistent, which has allowed him now to step in and be our starting left tackle.
Brian, kind of a big picture question about team cohesion and unity. It's counterintuitive to me that you guys brought in so many pieces, but all fall camp, they've talked about the closeness of this team, right? So how are you all able to achieve that? Did you do anything differently this year? Is it just a credit to the guys? Or what are you seeing from that perspective with so many new additions to this team?
I think the best analogy I can give you is that when your culture is established in the program, and established in the sense that when you bring in new players, they adapt to your program, not the other way around. And we weren't at that point in our program where we had everybody on board rowing in the right direction. So when these guys came in, it was just like, this is the way they do it. I better get on board or I'm not going to be part of what they do. So I think it starts with having the right locker room and knowing when you can go in and bring in people from the outside into your locker room. When your locker room is right and the standards are set and everybody's held to the same level of accountability, then it's easier to do that and have them really mesh with the entire group.
Hey, Brian, we got to see Karis Kern on the right side at tackle yesterday. Maybe just a thought on what you all are still trying to achieve with that offensive line with some of the switches this close to the game.
Well, I think, if I could circle back, Tyree is going to be our starting left tackle. I think there's still a battle between Paul and
Yeah, I don't know what happened with the audio.
Cohen Eccles, for one of the guard positions.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I could replay this video that we played from earlier. Huh? I actually didn't want to play all of it, but whatever. Truth being, going back to that Michael Cobble question, I do hear the same thing as far as the chemistry of this team and how well the unit has meshed. Now, look, Jeffrey, I agree. I think out of all the Brian Kelly LSU swag that he's worn, that's the one I want the most. So I'll play the full quote. And I will say that the follow-up here from Wilson Alexander came at the end of the press conference. That's why I wanted to play the whole thing. But this is just a chopped-up thing that you heard at the beginning.
Tyree is going to be our starting left tackle. I think there's still a battle between Paul and Cohen Eccles, for one of the guard positions. Justin has nailed down one of the guard positions. Braylon has nailed down the center. Excuse me. The center position. And I think there's still a battle for that next tackle position, which would be the right tackle. So we moved Carius over there to compete with Weston to see who's our best. And maybe it's both of them, Matt, more than anything else. We wanted to see that maybe it's a combination or maybe it's one or the other. There wasn't enough competition there. We feel like Ori's coming along, but he wasn't there yet. So we wanted to create a little bit more competition at that right tackle position. Does that make sense?
Real quick, you didn't mention DJ Chester on the offensive line. Is he still in the mix for a
Yes.
job?
In some ways it's a disservice to him because we got him playing center, guard. He's playing a little bit of right tackle. He's competing for a starting position as well. But we can't put them all out there. So somebody's going to have to be in a rotational position, whether it's Paul or Cohen or DJ, Weston or Carius. Those are the guys that are all going to eventually play. I don't think you're just going to see 5 guys trotting out there every single play. I think you're going to see some other guys definitely getting in the game as well.
There you go, platoon offensive line. I won't go too deep into it because that was the first 30 minutes of the press conference. So there you go. Uh-oh. The Master Blaster. I saw an interview earlier today with Ryan Williams. He was on the Track Star show. And Tony says that and Ryan Williams, the star wide receiver of Alabama, you have Tony saying he's at the bowling alley. Well, Ryan Williams says that's what they do in their spare time. It's either they're playing video games or they're bowling together as a team. Ryan, I'd love to come bowl. I would love to. There you go. I'll come bowl with the Bammers, Rammer Jammers, which leads me to my next topic. I don't like discussing national topics this early in a live stream, but my goodness gracious. I never thought that I would be doing any type of rant this close to the freaking season about something that happened pre-cell phones. Something that happened pre-MLK I Have a Dream speech. Something that happened way back in yesteryear. The Auburn Tigers decided to spit in the face of the legendary Paul Dietzel and the 1958 LSU Tiger Chinese Bandit legendary team by claiming all these national championships. I will be so honest. I better not ever see LSU claim a national title. What's the point? What is the damn point? Why? What is camp that bad? Did Auburn and its boosters and its higher-ups go to a practice and see Jackson Arnold play quarterback and say, well, not only are we going to distract our fans with announcing that Cam Newton's jersey is going to be retired, we're also just going to claim a bunch of natties. Now, if you want to talk about 2004, I actually went to that Sugar Bowl. That Auburn team was pretty phenomenal, but come on. Claiming national titles, you now have 9, and you're still a little brother in your own state for the other school that claims a bunch of natties that nobody gives a shit about. Nobody cares. Not a single soul cares. Not a single one. Auburn, this is so sucky. Nobody freaking gives a rip. I understand you haven't been good in a long time. I understand you haven't been, to a bowl game in 4 seasons? Is that correct? Is that a real stat? Auburn, you decide to do this? Now you got me digging into your past. You got me digging into old tweets. Whoo! National title? Are you freaking kidding me? And here's the thing. I have been nothing but praiseworthy of Auburn. Did you know Auburn was one of the few teams in the SEC that was top 5 in yards per play offensively and defensively? And that is normally a pretty good indicator of success the next season. Did you know last year snapped a streak of top 5 yard per play offensively and defensively for Alabama and Georgia? Both teams, they were top 5 in that metric since 2017, every year until last year. And Auburn? God, dog. I mean, what are you doing? What are you freaking doing? And then you're going to do the Jake Peets DJ Mangus. Have someone different call plays on first down and third down. What are you doing? And here's the thing, Auburn. I am willing to help because we do not play you guys this next year. We don't. I'm willing to help you. But at this juncture, it is reeking of another 5-7 season. I kind of want to just go claim a bunch of national championships. I kind of want to. Did you know that LSU in 2016 won a national championship? They didn't, but Leonard Fournette was cool. So I'm going to claim it. We say hi to Andy, first super chatter of the live stream. Good to see you. I actually got to meet each one of those wonderful kiddos in your photo. Thank you so much. I get to, it's really good to see you. Okay. Now, next few things. In the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. In about 30 minutes, I'll be on with the great Blake Ruffino. So all 218 of you better be there. Okay. The 150 on YouTube and then the 70 plus elsewhere. By the way, I need to do better about growing this show on Facebook. I am the worst Facebooker of all time. I've complained about this plenty of times. I don't know how to grow a show on Facebook. I really don't. I just think the Facebook algorithm hates me. So I think the key, and I was told this by a few different people, that you got to share it in a bunch of different Facebook groups. So when I go live, please share the Facebook stream as well. But I prefer everybody be on YouTube. Okay? Now, I have got to be real. I saw this earlier today. And this will be the thing that pisses a good bit of you off, that is just kind of sort of wild to me. I think it's important to separate what has happened and what you have been doing over the past 5 years. All right. So, friend of the show, Chris Marler, I freaking love Chris Marler. He's been on here a few times. He's one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite friends. He now lives in Baton Rouge. And the weird thing is, I've actually never met Marler in the flesh. Okay, so I saw this. He writes for 104.5 ESPN, and he releases his top 10 list. Now, all time in the SEC right now, Brian Kelly arguably has been the best coach in this conference, even more so than Kirby Smart, who's still relatively young in his career. I would still say Kirby is if you're basing this list based on accolades, I think Kirby Smart would have to be number one. And you can make a case based on accolades. Number two would be Kalen DeBoer. But the truth is, Brian Kelly is the second best coach in the SEC when we're looking at this from the lens of the lens of what you have accomplished as a coach. All right. But the truth is, based on what has happened over the past couple of seasons, Brian Kelly is behind a lot of the guys that are on this list. So Marler has it ranked Kirby Smart, number one, Steve Sarkisian, number two, Kalen DeBoer, number three, Brian Kelly, number four. To me, I would have Brian Kelly at number 7 ahead of Eli Drinkowitz. And the way I would list this list of coaches in the Southeastern Conference, Kirby Smart, number 1, Shane Beamer, number 2, Josh Heupel, number 3, Steve Sarkisian, number 4, Lane Kiffin, number 5, and then I would have Kalen DeBoer 6, Brian Kelly 7. Or you could flip those two because DeBoer's only been in the SEC one season. But, y'all, I mean, I am heavily weighting how you have coached in recent years. And for me, we're demanding more out of Brian Kelly this next year, right? You should demand more out of Brian Kelly. Now, personally, I like Brian Kelly more than any of those other coaches. I do find him to be an interesting, affable guy. I really do. But I'm not basing this off of accolades. I'm basing this off of what you have done over the past couple of years. All right. So the reason I have Shane Beamer ahead, like so far ahead of some of these other coaches, and I know that would be like very controversial, Shane Beamer ahead of Steve Sarkisian, but like for real, I know that they went 5-7 a few years ago and missed a bowl game, but I don't really think South Carolina has had elite OCs or DCs. Like Dow Loggins is fine. We'll see how he does at Appalachian State. Charleston White is okay, but the fact that Shane Beamer almost took South Carolina to the freaking college football playoff with a schedule every year that you have to play Clemson, and Shane Beamer has beaten Clemson twice over the past 3 years at their house, is nothing short of incredible. I don't think people understand how crazy that is. And the fact that Shane Beamer has won so many games at South Carolina that he had no business of winning. And let's be honest. Brian Kelly beat Shane Beamer last year. We're very fortunate to win that game. Okay. Josh Heupel, I mean, what else do I need to say about the coaching job he has done there? With 3 different quarterbacks, he makes a college football playoff. honestly, if the 12-team format was around, he would have been to the college football playoff 2 of the last 3 seasons. He's worked wonders. Like, Nico was not that great of a quarterback last year. And now we can get into a debate about Tennessee's good schedule fortune. They have had to me, softer SEC schedule than some of their peers. But Heupel's a real deal. I mean, this guy is just an amazing tackle football coach. At number 4, Steve Sarkisian, to me, is the best play caller in the SEC. I don't think do I think there is a debate otherwise? Yeah, you can make a strong case for Lane. You can make a strong case for Heupel. You can make a case for Bobby Petrino. But to me, he is the best play caller. And the reason he's not higher on this list is obviously Texas is a way better job than Tennessee or South Carolina. Yes, they won playoff games, but Texas also, to me, had the softest SEC schedule when you factor in that they got to play Florida with their 4th-string quarterback, essentially. And still, they made a good playoff run. I think they went about where that team should have been, which to me was the 4th best team in college football last year. So they finished basically as a top 4 team in CFB. We'll see what he does this next year. So he obviously can very well move up the list. Lane Kiffin, slightly ahead of Brian Kelly here on this list. For me, I do think Lane is just an elite tackle football coach. What he's done is at Ole Miss is incredible. Now, that's the toughest thing. Having Shane Beamer so far ahead of Lane in the spot, with Lane having destroyed Shane Beamer in his house 27-3 last year. Maybe I rethink this and put Shane a little bit lower, but 2 through 5 is very close. I do think Kirby has to be number 1, though. 2 through 5, it is all very, very close. And then you can flip-flop Brian Kelly or Kalen DeBoer. The guy that I think everyone is overrating is Elijah Drinkowitz in many ways. Missouri has one of the easier SEC slates. They have had the easiest non-conference slate. They have one of the more favorable rivalry game matchups versus Arkansas every year. Yes, 10 wins with a big bowl victory over Ohio State is signature. I give them a lot of credit for that. A few years ago, that was a very, very good team. And look, part of this Elijah Drinkowitz discussion is Blake Baker. He loses Blake Baker, and last year their defense was still fine. So yeah, I don't know. I understand that's gonna give me some hate. It's gonna give me this will be shared a bunch, but I just think if we're basing this more on recent coaching jobs, I would put all 5 of those ahead of DeBoer and BK. I do think it's very close, and then you go Drinkowitz next, and then however you want to order the final few is how you want to order them. I think Lebby, of course, would probably be last. I would honestly have Venables as second to last, probably. I mean, that is such a great job, and he's done so little there. So we'll see. But yeah. And that doesn't mean that Brian Kelly's done a bad job here. It's just now he is coaching in a ridiculously prime era of SEC football. It is so different than when Les was coaching against coaches that just aren't as good as the coaches are now, right? Les was coaching against Jim McElwain in Florida. It was okay. Probably not the best example there. But guys like Will Muschamp were at South Carolina. And Will Muschamp's a good coach. Take that back. He's a good coordinator, not a great head coach, as we have learned. It's just way more difficult. Texas finally got their head coach right. Okay. The only thing now is now in the SEC, Oklahoma has by far their worst coach. But all the other schools, you can make a strong case this is one of their better coaching hires that they have ever made. Kirby's the best hire ever at Georgia. We'll see what Sark can do at Texas, but it looks pretty good. Lane Kiffin's the best coach ever at Ole Miss. Eli Drinkowitz is up there as the second best coach behind Gary Pinkel at Missouri. But he's really good. I'll give, as much as I push back on Eli, he's still very, very, very good. Josh Heupel is definitely one of the better Tennessee coaches, the best since, Fulmer. But and it makes it harder. It makes it harder. Les wasn't going up against that. Edo wasn't going up against that. Now, the only Edo Les guy, and they didn't have to deal with Oklahoma, where their best coaches were the guys at that time. Auburn, obviously, with Gus, was really good. Let's go to Chance. He says Stoops and Napier beat Lane. And that's why I have Lane a little bit lower, because he did lose games that he should not have lost last year. And I do think between the headsets, Lane isn't the absolute best. Now, it doesn't mean he's not a great play caller. It's just he really loses it during games. I mean, he really gets caught up in the emotion of a football game. So there you go. Why is Clark Lee so low? Well, it's been 1 year since what he's done at Vanderbilt. But I don't have him last. I do not have him last. Now, another guy that could move way up this list is Mike Elko. Another thing Marlard has here, and I'll put it back up on the screen, is that he does have Mark Stoops at number 10, which is just horrendous. Napier's better than Stoops. Clark Lee's better than Stoops. That's about right. I would put Billy ahead of Stoops, and I would put Lee ahead of Stoops. Mark Stoops is not that good. Sorry. Oh, we're not going to get in that. That's been a PHL iconic debate. Oh, Nolan. Okay. Nolan did share an interesting stat. So he messaged this to me yesterday. And you can always message me at Power Hour LSU, or if you're a patron, I'm always available on the Discord. Now, here's the thing, Nolan. I didn't go fact check this, so if you are wrong about this, I do not want the Bammers coming after me. But A.J. Halsey had more tackles than Alabama's entire defensive line room last year combined. Now, does that say more about how bad the Houston defense was, that A.J. Halsey had to, clean everything up? Or does it say more about what all Alabama lost in their defensive line? I don't know what to make of that. Some years your safety is your leading tackler. Sometimes it's your linebacker. All right, that's about it. I am donezo. Now, here's the good news. You can support PHL in so many different ways, but the single thing that you can do, totally free, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. We are comfortably in the 150s, 200s. During the season, I want every stream to have north of 200 people. That is my main goal. Now, what do I need to do for that on YouTube? Do I need to strip? I'm not going to do that. Do I need to go later? Go later in the evening? I don't know. I like 6 p.m. 6 p.m. is perfect. Getting off work, put PHL on and chill. Let's go to Andy with the super chat. Do I think we're going to be able to run the football against Clemson? Well, it depends on what you want to define as run. Okay. It honestly, you know, for me, I truly do think throwing the football to your running backs out of the backfield is a true extension of your run game, right? And we'll go more into this tomorrow, but for me, when I look at this Clemson defense, they have had some issues guarding the running back out of the backfield. And I'm not just talking about issues. I'm talking about just completely disregarding them altogether. And Tom Allen had some issues at Penn State with that as well. Not big because he is a good defensive coordinator, but it is something, okay? But actually running the football, yeah, I think Kaden Durham, he just needs a tiny crease, and he's gone. Okay, let's go to Brian. He pushes back. He says, "Mr. LSU, we're on the same." And this is a great thing. Brian says, Brian Kelly has done a top 3 coaching job up to this point. And once again, just because I think other coaches have done better in recent years, does not necessarily mean that those coaches are better than Brian Kelly. It also doesn't mean that Brian Kelly has not done a good job up to this point. Okay? But, you know, I won't go too deep into all the different reasons, but I do think it is worthy of a debate. Okay? And Brian, thanks for all the support on the NFL channel. We've had a few videos blow up over there. Okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Shout out to our top super chatter of the evening. It is none other than Mr. Andy Alexander. And tonight we are doing chicken spaghetti. Let's go.